We are thrilled to have on the Endless Hustle Day Emmy and four-time James Beard winning TV personality and chef, a true titan of the industry, Mr. Andrew Zimmern. Thanks for joining.
Oh, no, thank you. This is great. I'm excited.
Great to have you. You know, I'm sure many of our listeners know your background to some extent, but do you mind kind of giving a Spark Notes version of where your culinary love was born and kind of how you grew to prominence?
Yeah, sure. I never knew a time that I didn't want to be in the food business. My parents traveled to eat and ate to travel. We had gardens. We foraged, although we did not call it foraging in the 60s. My father called it working for your dinner. But, we went crabbing, we went clamming, we went fishing. When I was little, there was a point in my life, believe it or not, when I was 3 feet, 4 feet tall and skinny like a toothpick. And my dad would hold me by the ankle and he would drop me in between these massive stones. I mean, some of them the size of a small house, that made these giant jetties that went out into the ocean to prevent soil erosion and beach erosion out in the South Fork of Long Island. And in between these stones is where these mussel ropes would hang. They were protected from any predators. The tide would go in and out. I mean, they're just the perfect growing place for these filter animals. And my dad would, lower me down between these rocks. My mother was, don't drop him, don't drop him. I loved it. It was like descending into a cave. You just felt weightless. My dad was a big, strong guy, ex-Navy in World War II, big strapping, 6'2" behemoth. And he would lower me down and I would pull up these ropes of mussels, 4 or 5 feet long, big, fat, black mussels. And we would just clean them and throw them in a pot. My dad would surf cast for striped bass as the sun was setting. That would go on the grill. Crabs from Georgia Pond went on the grill, and everyone just all the families just sat around and ate. Someone brought burgers, gazpacho from the garden, and I loved it. I loved the entertaining of it. I loved helping with a dish and having people, politely over dinner say, hey, Andrew, Karen, great job with the, angel food cake or whatever it was that I had helped mix at age 4 or 5, or, getting compliments for the mussels, even though I was just a pair of hands that retrieved. And I fell in love with food in my grandmother's kitchen, in my mother's kitchen, my dad's kitchen. And when I was 14 years old, well, the summer I turned 14, I'm a July baby. So I guess it was May or June of that year. My father informed me, it was one of the great tragedies of my life, that the free ride was over. Allowance didn't exist for kids of a certain age. And I was like, whoa, these are the same idiots that decided that there was no allowance once you hit 14 were the people who made weekends only 2 days long, and that arbitrary, there's only 3 meals a day. I mean, fuck that. I mean, that is... whoever made all those rules, let's find out who they are, right? And I remember like thinking about it overnight, and my dad secretly wanted me to work with all my friends at the landscaping place. And I didn't want to wheelbarrow, dirt and shit all over someone's backyard all summer long during prime daytime hours. I wanted to play tennis with my friends, go to the beach, meet girls, I was 14, smoke weed, whatever, read comics, whatever, healthy, normal, listen to music. And I wanted to work in restaurants at night. And eventually, after much persuasion, that happened. And so all my summers in Long Island, I worked in restaurants, and eventually in college I was on like the 6-year plan at Vassar. I kept getting kicked out. I was a mess. And I would run away to Europe for, 4 or 5 months at a time, 6 months at a time, on my mandatory semesters away, as we like to refer to it. And I cooked in Michelin-starred restaurants in Europe, and cooked in restaurants in New York, and cooked for private families out on Long Island. And eventually, when I got out of college, my first job was I was the chef at a restaurant in Long Island, a seafood grill place attached to a nightclub. Super, super awesome. It was not good for my drug and alcohol problem, but it was wonderful for my CV. And I kept rising. My star kept rising in the food world, cooked for a lot of very famous chefs in New York and Los Angeles, and then just crashed and burned when I went homeless when I was 29, tried to kill myself when I was 30, survived the whole thing, horrific drug and alcohol problem, and eventually got well and in Minnesota at a treatment center here called Hazelden, now Hazelden Betty Ford. And I've been sober since January of 1992, and life keeps getting better here in Minnesota. I started building restaurants and creating food businesses and other businesses, and then transferred it all into TV and radio and podcast and food writing and books and all that kind of stuff. And now today, the apex of my career is hanging out with you jokers.
Isn't it amazing? This is what it's all led up to.
No, I seriously, I have a hustle boner that could pound nails. I'm so excited. This is
Andrew. We recently had Neil deGrasse Tyson on, and we said he's one of those guys where you just
did he use the word boner in a sentence?
No.
You've eclipsed him.
Good. Okay, just want to make sure where I stood.
Yeah. He showed us a picture of him in like this leotard from when he was in college. It was sexy, but we'll see. If you can break that, then great. But
all right, we'll see.
We just wind him up and let him go. And you seem exactly like one of those dudes. You're obviously very articulate and thoughtful. So I just want to give you a rose as well.
Well, thank you.
Why are you kissing his ass already?
Holy shit.
That's trying to get a free meal in Minnesota right there, Zimmern.
I appreciate that. No, it's Neil's a fascinating guy. And the topic of psychedelics has come up a lot recently for me because I have a lot of friends, normie friends, that have come to me for advice about if I do psychedelic therapy for my depression issues that I've suffered from and kept a secret from all my friends my whole life, am I going to turn into a drug addict? And I'm like, no, you're like microdosing LSD. I said, if you start, buying 100 hits of blotter and taking it every day and going to work, I don't recommend that. But you really have a long way to go before you hit the addiction phase with psychedelia, which is almost non-existent.
So here's the most important question of the interview. Have you hired hitmen to go chase down Stanley Tucci now that he's overtaken you as culinary's most beloved bald personality?
Not at all. It's a fascinating subject. And I've waited 3-4 weeks. I do 4 or 5 interviews or podcasts a week, at least one a day. And I keep waiting for someone to ask me about Stanley and his show. And I'm surprised. I actually hung up phone calls or hit end meeting on Zoomcast, thinking to myself, well, those people sort of missed some pretty obvious balls to throw over the plate. First of all, I think anything that promotes culture and food, I'm all for. I own a production company. I make a lot of TV. I'm really proud of the TV I'm making. I started veering into a different type of food television when we started doing What's Eating America for MSNBC. We'll see where that goes. Right now, they still have time left on their option for other seasons of the show. It was a big hit for them, and I hope we get to make more. The news cycle, however, I couldn't have picked a worse time. And Stanley couldn't have picked a better time to get on air with a news network, right? Last February, when we aired, our 6-7 week run culminated in COVID breaking out all across America, right? And then there's the COVID, and then the election, and then the second impeachment, and then the run up to inauguration and January 6th. And do I need to keep going? It's just been, it's been incredible. And so the newsers are all flying high. They've all lost a portion of audience. Who hasn't? Because there's now 1 million channels, but they have a lot more viewership in the right demos, and they're all growing to a certain extent. I'm really excited as a maker by CNN putting Stanley on, because it it says that there's still an appetite out there for that type of programming. As someone who runs a company that makes a lot of TV and mostly shows that I'm not in, I really, really like that. The as far as bald guys with facial hair and cool glasses, for the ladies that like skinny, there's Stanley. If you like a little more, upholstery on your couch, there's me. That, by the way, did you see that? What is it? Harry's brother. What's his name?
William.
William, sexiest bald man in the world. I take extreme umbrage to that. So when you talk about whoever decided that, along with the 2 days of the weekend, 3 meals a day during the week, those are the people that I'm going to go take out.
You're also working with the golden couple of television right now, Chip and Joanna Gaines. Congrats on that new show on Magnolia, Family Dinner.
Thanks.
That's got to be exciting.
It's super great. What's cool, just from a entrepreneurial standpoint, is, and if you think about it, you very rarely get to make TV for a new network. It's not happened in my lifetime, right? While I was in the TV business, right? Since the first big explosion in cable, there hasn't been a major cable launch like this one. Now, it's interesting that it's launching on the streamer before it goes to the linear in January of 2022. But it's an amazing thing to be along for the ride at the beginning, right? We were one of the first shows that they bought. We made a ton of them. They're dropping now all year long. I think there's now 6 there, and I think there's another 6 or 10 that'll drop in July when the Magnolia streamer within a streamer, or the Magnolia app within the app launches. It's very complex for me to remember. And then I'm sure the rest will launch with the linear next January, and I'm sure we'll be making more of those. That's a lot of fun. We're also, my